Hello everyone, so today I'm going to rank all the units again. So you've seen my previous videos and you know what? I think that after seeing them for a while, I think that they're all pretty outdated, and to be honest, there are also new units since this new updates, like the Juggernaut and the 3 Daughters on the Drone. This is why I'm making a new version of the tier list now, and this will be all my opinion, so it's not objectively correct. You can disagree if you want. So I'm going to rank them from order of the week here. So the first one I'm going to be ranking is Empty Barrel. Empty Barrel is very versatile and can be used in a lot of situations, but I think I'm just gonna put him in B tier because even though it's good, I think that there are other items that can be used instead of it, like the Red Barrel, of course. And the second one I'm gonna rank is Redneck. Overall, Redneck I think he's a good unit, and to be honest, he's pretty solid for his attacks, but to be honest, he's just pretty basic and it's just C tier. The next one is going to be Juggler. Juggler overall is very good, especially his stun ability, which allows him to be a very versatile unit. But the problem I have with him is that I would prefer to use a better version of him, which is Rogue, which, you know, is a pretty newly added unit also. This is why I can only put him in B tier. Higher than Redneck, but is not better than the Barrel. Next one's gonna be Specops. Specops is very unique as his ability to drop anyone on the battlefield as a range unit is also pretty efficient. But the disadvantage I have with him is that he's basically just a SWAT unit, but you can drop him anywhere. And to be honest, his range isn't that good for him to be a versatile range unit. This is why I can only put him in B tier. A unique ability, but his overall stats just doesn't make him good enough. Next one I have is Saw, and to be honest, Saw, similar with Berserker, I really hate because there's not much reason to use them, since they basically cause rage, and I would rather use items instead of units. I don't think his stats are overall better than most other melee units. This is why I put him down here. For Berserk, which I really don't like. And then Farmer is insanely good, a very underrated early unit. He's basically the first shotgun unit you're gonna get, and he does pretty hefty damage. Next one is Lester. I think it's better than Farmer, but the problem is he can only get him in Christmas events. But for a unit himself, is A tier. Builder for me is good, but not better than Redneck. Pretty situational, just like Saw. But for most of the early levels, since Builder is one of the only units that's tanky enough to deal with stronger zombies, I think Builder deserves a D tier. But he should not be used, especially when you get stronger units like Grenadier or other tankier units. Next one is Mechanic. Mechanic still remains one of my favorite units and one of the strongest units I see in the game. His charge attack is just insane, especially after you unlock his special ability when you level him up enough, where he can keep using his charge ability until he doesn't one-shot a zombie. Next one is Pepper. Pepper I think is great, especially her overall DPS. Not to mention, she also have the rolling back ability, which makes her, stay alive for a longer duration in the game. And with her ability to boost 1 unit in the battlefield, I think she deserves a B tier, but not any higher than that. Next is Medkit. I've never liked using Medkit, personally never see a use for it, but many people use it. This is why I think it deserves a D tier higher than E. Chopper, to be honest, for me is still a F tier. Chopper is not a good character. He's just a very tanky unit, but he doesn't have any resistance like melee resistance of Policeman Diaz. This is why I'm putting him in F tier. He should not be used and will probably get you killed for using him. Next one is Red Barrel. Red Barrel to me is still one of the best items in the game. Red Barrel is very useful as it can ignite fire pool, which means it can burn corpse just like the Molotov Cocktail, and can also explode when it's destroyed, thus killing more zombies when the thing is destroyed. Next one is Firefighter, and to me, Firefighter is not a good unit. It's similar to Builder, but except I see more usage from him in the later levels, especially against Slop and Epidemiologist, since he's immune to the poison attacks. Which I find him very useful, especially since at that time you're not gonna get a lot of anti-poison units. Next one I have, Charlotte to me is pretty mid unit, but I think that she is usable but not that good. This one I'm putting her in D tier. Next one I have is Molotov Cocktail. For me, it's just way too similar to Red Barrel for it to be useful. Not to mention, especially in rainy day levels, at least the Red Barrel can still be used as a barrier to block zombies and can still explode to kill zombies. But like when it's raining, there's no more fire, which means that your Molotov Cocktail is just completely useless. Next one I have is Glenn. He revives himself, which can be useful, especially against zombies like Slops. But I think that he's not any higher than C tier because he's similar to Redneck. Next one I have is Policeman Diaz. Policeman Diaz remains one of my favorite units in this game also. He is overall very tanky. He's a range unit. He's a shotgunner, which means he can basically deal with a lot of weak zombies together. He also has the melee resistance, which is insane. This one I have is Generator. For me, Generator is pretty good, but I think it really needs to like see on what levels you're doing, what levels you're going to do, and what decks you're using it with. This one I'm putting in C tier. It can be very efficient, but it can also be very badly used by a lot of people. This one I'm putting in C tier. Next one I have is Grenadier. Grenadier for me is a very good unit, but overall, after playing this game for a while, I can only put him in A tier now. His grenade ability is still one of the most useful abilities in the game, but his overall DPS and his health for me doesn't make up for his high courage cost. But to be honest, I still use him a lot in most of my decks and most levels I play on. Next one I have is Gunslinger. He's basically just a very bad version of Carlos, which I'm gonna talk about later. Just I'm putting in E tier. Next one I have is Nitrogen. For me, Nitrogen is in a weird spot. It's basically a fire barrel, but instead it freezes zombies. The problem I have is that it also freezes your units. So I'm putting in E tier. It's not a bad item, it's just that it's very situational on how you can use it well. Next one I have is Private Rodriguez, or however you use, but I'm just gonna call him Private. For me, he's in the B tier. Next one I have is Sniper Polina. The problem I have with Sniper Polina is similar to Charlotte. It's just that she's not that versatile in levels. Next one I have is Welder. Welder, to be honest, I still put in up there. For me, I just never found him to be useful since I would rather use other decks that doesn't force me to use Welder. Then next one I have is Carlos. Carlos for me is a high DPS unit, and I'm putting him in B tier. Carlos for me is just a very good DPS unit and should always be used in most levels. Next one I have is Guard. For me, Guard, the problem with Guard is that it's basically just a worse Grenadier for me, and this one I'm putting it D tier. It's not a bad unit, but it's not a unit that I'm going to use over most other units. Next one I have is Medic. Medic for me is a situational unit. This is why I will put her in E tier. For Flamethrower, for me, he have way too little health for the damage he does, and he uses in rainy levels, which means that he only deserves a D tier. Soldier. Soldier for me is similar to Chopper, pretty much a useless heavyweight and should never be used. Next one I have is Cap. I rarely use him, but it can be good. It's similar to Pepper, but instead just I'm putting it in B tier, same as Pepper, but really depends on what deck you're using. Next one for me is Sonya. Very high survivability, damage to. Next one I have is Ranger. Ranger is very good, but he is pretty costly, so be careful on what time you use him on. This one is Willy. Willy is a very good unit, but to be honest, I really only use him for boss fight, so I'm putting E tier. Overall, next one I have is just your money earning unit, Austin. Austin for me is near D or E tier. It's not because he's a bad unit, but because he's really only in this game just for you to earn more money. Next one I have is Swat. Swat for me is another problematic unit. One reason is due to his range, similar to others. It's just that he have barely any range, and to be honest, his health isn't high, and ability is really only useful in levels where it doesn't rain because it sets enemies on fire. Next one I have is Night Soldier. Night Soldier for me is another problematic unit. The reason is because you get him in such a late game level where you probably would not use him. Like you will probably use Guard or some units like Grenadier or just more spammable units like. Next one I have is Carol, and Carol for me is another problematic unit in the level system. She does have infinite range, making her pretty hard to use in most levels, this is why I don't use her. Agents, overall good unit, but there are decks that doesn't require you to use agents, this is why I'm putting it D tier. Overall good unit, but it's not required, especially since due to the new updates where next one I have Queen. Basically a grenade launcher unit is good, but I don't really use her much, this one I'm putting it D tier. Next I have is Turbo, pretty useless in most levels to be honest. The problem I have with Turbo is that she's really only immune to range damage, which makes her very good in the PvP area or the levels with the human enemies, or else she's pretty much useless for me. Next I have is the turret. Turret for me is also in S tier because it's one of the highest DPS unit in this game. Next I have is Cashier. Cashier overall is pretty good, especially his smashing attack. Insanely high damage, but he does need to charge a bit. But for his cost, I think it is okay. Next I have is Red Hood. Similar to other heavyweights, useless. Next I have is Paramedic Nancy. For me, it's a pretty good unit, but the problem I have is how short, making her pretty hard to revive a unit because she always likes to attack zombies. This one put her in C tier. Next I have is User Abby. Way too many problems. She turns into a strong zombie, and not to mention, if she is attacked once while using her minigun, she literally stops using her minigun. That just makes her barely usable. Next I have is Rogue. Rogue to me is S tier. His stun ability is basically what Welder is, just why I'm putting it S tier. Next I have is Lionheart. It's basically just your normal melee unit with throwing Molotov, which I put Molotov in F tier also. Next I have are the new units added. First of them is Dr. Miller. For me, Dr. Miller bomb attack isn't really that strong and doesn't make him good enough for you to use him. E tier. Next I have is Dr. Kane. Dr. Kane overall is one of the best units. His buffer attack is just insanely good. I often use him now. Next I have Dr. Norma. His freeze attack can be good, but overall he's very hard to pair him with other units since once he dies he drops the nitrogen, which means that your other units can get slowed down, which means zombies can get closer. Next, I have Juggernaut. Juggernaut is one of the best units. As a heavyweight, you may think it's a bad, but his knockback and when he dies, he also explodes, make him such a useful unit. He can kill a lot of zombies just by himself. This one I'm putting in S tier. Next, I have his drone. Very good distraction unit. This one I'm putting in B tier. But overall, I think that there are other units that you can use that doesn't require drones, like Dex doesn't require him. This one I'm putting in B tier only. But overall, drone is a pretty good new unit added. So this concludes my tier list. This is a very quick one since after watching my old videos, I got bored within a minute. So that's all. At this spot here, you can see the end screen for my last video in case you want to check out. So see you everyone.